Good afternoon. I am Andrea Luciani and I'm postdoc at the Luleå University of Technology.
And my name is Sjöholm. I'm lecturer at the same university. And we are going to present our paper, The Norrbotten's Technological Megasystem as a Heritage Discourse, Paradoxes and Controversies.
We are in the northernmost part of Sweden, in the region called Norrbotten, which includes the northern part of the coast on the Gulf of Bothnia and the northern part of the Swedish Lapland. And these regions is characterized by the presence of the Norrbotten's technological megasystem. The Norrbotten's technological megasystem was defined like that by Hansson in 1998, and it's included in the list of the industrial historical sites of national interest in Sweden. And it is a industrial system that was built starting from the 19th century to exploit the rich iron ore mines in Kiruna and Malmberget. And apart from these mines and the corresponding cities and mining cities, it includes the railway that connects all the cities with the harbors of Luleå on the Boden Sea and of Narvik in Norway, and also the hydropower plant of Porjus, and then the fortress of Boden, which were installed to protect these resources from the surrounding countries. So here we can go quickly through the pictures to these sites. Here you can see the city of Kiruna on the right, and on the left you can see also the dimensions of the mine. Here we are instead in Malmberget, and here you can see already the impact that the open pit has had on the city, and of course the backbone of all this system is the Malmbanan, which is as I told you before, the railway connecting the mining sites with the harbor where the iron ore is shipped to the rest of the world. And it's interesting also to observe the timing, because as soon as the industrial process for the purification of the iron ore was patented, just 10 years ago, 10 years after that, the first train started from Malmberget in Gällivare to go to Luleå with the first shipping of materials, and the railway was completed to Narvik in 1902. Here instead you have a picture from the other side, the other side of Porjus, where here is one of the first hydropower station in Sweden that was installed to provide electricity to the railway. And here instead you have a view of one of the fortresses surrounding Boden.
First paradox. The economic paradigm that was producing the megasystem during the 19th and 20th century created an environment that is now regarded as cultural heritage. But that same economic paradigm is now destroying that same environment. And for example, you can see the increased costs and prices of materials, and the increased prices of iron ore made very lucrative to expand the mines in Kiruna and in Malmberget. So in 2004, the mining company LKAB announced the need to relocate Kiruna in order to continue mining. So, the town of Kiruna. Kiruna was founded as a model town in 1900. And in this map you can see the blue area, which was the company area, which was the one that was established as a model town. And the purple area is a service and supply town that was built to support the company area. And the green was the railway area, which was in place just to enable the important railway to connect to Narvik and to the exporting harbours. Unfortunately, as you can see on this picture, the iron ore goes beneath the settlement. You can see the settlement to the right in this picture, and you can see how the iron ore is going in under the settlement. And as mining continues, there are cracks and open pits opening up in the ground. You have the deformations, meaning they need to locate the settlement. And in this map you can see the prognosis and the forecasts for how the subsidence will affect the town. So the red line, that's the part of the existing settlement that will be affected by around 20 years' time. And it will affect today's town centre and important buildings such as the town hall, the church, many residential areas, etc. And what's important to point out is also that the entire settlement is an industrial heritage site and an heritage site that is of national interest. So, how will this built heritage be treated in the urban transformation? That is a good question. So, a few buildings have been moved, but do you reckon that it is movable or immovable infrastructure that you have to deal with? Is it in fact heritage or is it not heritage? And what has happened is, in the map to the left, you can see what is included in the conservation plan back in the 1980s. The entire city is a heritage site of national interest. You can see a number of pinpointed heritage environments. You can see the red dots being individual buildings. You can see the green areas being parks and green areas that was included in this conservation plan, meaning that they should be long-term protected because they were of huge significance. And on the map to the right, you can see the number of buildings that will be moved throughout the entire urban transformation process. That has been agreed upon. A few more buildings will probably be relocated, but it's very few buildings compared to what's actually included in the listing of the place as being a significant heritage site. And just to show a few of these buildings, to the left you can see a model of the town, and the red is where the deformation will take place. That corresponds with that map I showed in the previous picture. And buildings that will be demolished is the town hall, which is on top building on the right side. It used to be a listed building, but it's no longer so. It has been, the protection has been withdrawn so they can demolish it. In the middle picture you see the railway station, which is already been demolished. And in the bottom picture you can see an old fire station that is not among the buildings that has been decided to be moved either. Here you can see on the top right picture the Kiruna church, which is to be relocated. And in the middle you can see the housing of one of the early CEOs of the mining company. That building has already been relocated. And in the bottom picture you can see a few buildings that is workers' housing, and a few of these are to be relocated as the urban transformation continues.
Second paradox. The industries are more productive than before, and for these reasons less workforce is required for the mining and for the industrial processes. This has in a way affected the link between the local communities and the productive process, and has made the settlements and the people living in these settlements redundant and expendable. We will show this process by using the example of Malmberget, which has been defined an expendable community. So a community that could be in a way sacrificed in the name of the development of the mining. Here you can see where Malmberget is. It's included in the municipality of Gällivare, together with the other small mining town of Koskuskule. And you can see from the map that these two cities, especially Malmberget and Gällivare, developed a sort of duality along their history, because Malmberget was the mining town and Gällivare was the business town. And nowadays this kind of contrast between the two communities is disappearing, because Malmberget will be completely cleared and the inhabitants of Malmberget will be moved partly to Gällivare and partly to Koskuskule. And so the historic buildings in Malmberget that were also a protected area will be moved to Koskuskule. These slides presents the ore deposits all around the city of Malmberget, and if you compare them to the case of Kiruna, we don't have just one compact deposit, but many that are all around the city. And of course, also the exploitment of this deposit is causing the movements in the ground on the surface. So Malmberget has to be moved, and in these slides also you can clearly see why. So this overlapping picture is from 1955, and you can see the pit that is close to the city and surrounded by the city. But here you can see the situation that is from some few years ago, and you can already see how the expansion of this pit has caused a huge part of the city to be cleared and moved. So this process is something not recent, but is something going on for years and decades nowadays. And instead you can see in these slides the new settlements in Koskuskule, where some of the buildings of the company town will be moved. These are also pictures that show the process of moving the buildings and show the historic buildings of the company towns in the new area during the wars that are still going on. But the other of the medal is the impact on the city, on the former city of Malmberget, which where the buildings are taken from, leaving these voids and leaving empty areas that soon will include all the city.
So we can see that the built heritage is being used in different ways, and sometimes it's a bit controversial how it is being used and exploited. And we will start with showing an example, the case of Boden and the historic built environment in Boden, which was built as a fortress and fortification city to defend this part of the country. So you have Boden in the middle of this map and surrounded by fortresses. Some of them are closed and others have been turned into museums nowadays. And you can experience the historic site of different ways. And one is in the former military building, in which a defense museum has opened. You have, of course, the fortress itself. Some part of it is open for the public as a museum. You have some adapted reuse of other buildings. This is a storage building used to storage art for the military, and that has been converted to a museum and the art gallery, preserving some of the important interior details. And you have spontaneous museums growing in the area as well, and this one has developed in another military building, which is called the Patna Museum. They are collecting, well, all things, bikes, mopeds, etc.
If Boden is an example of a city that partially lost its original use as a fortress town and where buildings lost their function, in the neighborhood of Svartöstaden we have an opposite process. Buildings are not changing their function, but in this case users have changed. Svartöstaden used to be the neighborhood of the workers of the old Ore Arbor of Luleå, but nowadays, due to its location by the sea, it is becoming more and more attractive for wealthy people. This gentrification process is perceived as a risk. As you can see in the picture in the bottom right, the old working class houses are being renovated and enlarged, and the new additions and details are not always coherent with the history and character of the place. So, in conclusion, we want to present how this controversial process can be presented and have different narratives depending on the perspectives of people that are telling the story. So in this slide you see two pictures, and where you can see one perspective, that is the nostalgic perspective that was proposed by a local artist about the abandonment of Malmberget. So there is this feeling of something that is gonna end, and on the other side you have the official narration that is proposed by the mining company, that is a more future-oriented and looking forward perspective, and that propose a positive view of the world process. And the same happened with the use or misuse of heritage. So it's interesting to note that in almost the same years we have these two episodes. The mining company LKB presented a book telling the story of the mining company and of all the settlements and of the Norrbotten technological megasystem of course in a positive way and in a exciting way to present the development of this area. And at the same time we have the episode where a shaft tower was burned by the fire brigades of the mining company as a test, and this of course caused the reaction of the local communities, and that is well exemplified by this painting, again by another local artist, that represents the burning of these historic buildings as done by Talibans. And then you have also on the left the representation of the local authorities that don't pretend not to see or to look at what is happening. In the presentation we have seen how the Norrbotten technological megasystem has been created and how it has been framed as an heritage discourse. We have seen how its technological evolution has created paradoxical case studies for the management of built heritage, because the technological evolution of the Norrbotten megasystem is nowadays posing a risk for the preservation of sites of national interest. We have also seen how different sites are used and managed sometimes in controversial ways, and probably the most interesting thing to analyze is the way that all this process is described and is described and narrated by the different actors involved in the work process. Unfortunately, we cannot be there with you, But if you are interested in the topics we have presented, or if you want to ask questions to us, you can do it in the mail addresses you find in this slide. Thank you.
Thank you.